Hello, and welcome to Dukascopy TV. I'm joined by Simon Hardie, the Director of Bosphorus Consulting based in Istanbul. Thank you for joining us, Simon. Now, with the lira hovering near a 6-month low and banks facing stubbornly high inflation, what do you expect from the interest rate decision today?
Well, I'm not sure we're expecting anything specifically. I think the main thing is that they're probably going to have to stay as where they are or go up. I mean, the economy is depending on which side of the political spectrum you talk to, which part of business you talk to. I think generally speaking, the fundamental issue with Turkey is that people don't save, and they've got there's a lot of spending, and the combination of construction boom just means that they somehow need to find a way to cool spending a little bit and encourage more saving.
What is your reaction to the former Central Bank of Turkey Vice President Dr. Fatih Özatay's statement that he would not invest in Turkey if he were a foreigner?
I mean, I think the sort of particular challenge of a market like Turkey, where the sort of whole idea of political risk, although the pricing in of political risk has probably died down a bit compared to where it was a year ago, the environment is still highly politicized. And I think as a result, you've got this challenge with the central bank, which is doing what it can to stay independent, but is being put under pressure by the cabinet and by now President Erdogan to do what they want and appease their short-term objectives. So, I wouldn't say from a sort of, I suppose, from a Western point of view, it's fairly. It sounds perverse almost to have somebody say that, particularly when the country is so dependent on importing capital to balance its books. But it's not. It's just kind of another indication of how politicized the financial, commercial versus social environment has become, and not totally surprising, really. And as a foreigner living in the country personally, from a personal point of view, I mean, in some ways, I've been inclined to agree with him. I think it is it's a growing economy, and it will continue to grow. But the legislature, or rather the government, is sort of quite prepared, apparently, to have its own view on laws and title.
And lastly, the Islamic State poses a major threat to Turkey. How is this impacting Turkey now, and how could it affect Turkey in the future?
Well, I think, as we spoke before, I don't think it's. I wouldn't say ISIS is really it's a threat in the same way that it's a threat to the Western civilization. One can grandly call it that. But Turkey's a NATO member. It may not be quite as heavily involved in the airstrikes as other nations. I think I'm not sure if their position's changed, but certainly a couple of weeks ago they said they wouldn't be directly involved in airstrikes. But I think broadly speaking, there's a medium-term impact of refugees. We've had another 60 or 70,000 refugees crossing the border from Syria into Turkey. So I guess there's a cost and potentially demographic implication there. But broadly speaking, I think all this volatility, whether it's ISIS to the east or Ukraine and Russia to the north across the Black Sea, and broadly speaking, actually it goes the other way. It reduces the kind of spectre of Turkey's own political risk, and it's kind of positioned, certainly Istanbul, as a bit of a safe haven in a very stormy sea. So I think. It's very hard to say what the actual outcome is going to be, because airstrikes have only just started, but I think I don't think the impact on the economy is going to be massive, and in fact it could be slightly positive.
Thank you, Simon. That wraps up today's interview concerning Turkey. Keep checking back at Dukascopy for more updates. Goodbye.